Hello, hello, hello. Greetings, one and all. And yes, if you're watching this back later, hope you're having a fine time. Get told often by people they put on a stream when they're doing housework or something banal, have a bit of company while they do it. So I hope you're enjoying whatever's happening in your world as you listen, whether you're live or playing back. Luke, live, you've been watching very old angry Aussie videos about toilets at work. Disturbing number of my early videos were about toilets, actually. Had to get it out of my system, I think. So, the way things go. So, hello, Invisible Chicken and Annette. Nice to see you. What are we at? Tuesday. Sometimes I have trouble keeping track of days. And by sometimes, I mean all the time. And this weird limbo that we're in. Been working from home for 3 months now. And it's looking like an even money bet that we're going to get more severe restrictions in Melbourne rather than less severe ones that we were hoping for. But I think that's still a little bit up in the air, hasn't been absolutely decided. But yes, we just keep getting the new cases, and turns out that it's just from people misbehaving in their own homes and whatnot. Peter, hello, good evening, welcome. You and your mum looked up the thing we were told not to look up in Code Grey, the fundraiser. Oh no, you looked up photos of Fournier's gangrene. It's not good. It is, very much not good, the old Fournier's gangrene. The thing what afflicted AIDS-y. It is a flesh-eating bacteria. Was caused by a flesh-eating bacteria. The condition generally, good with words and me, generally known as necrotizing fasciitis, and can be caused by quite a number of things and can attack a number of things. But apparently, if you get it like AIDS-y on the scrotum, that's known as Fournier's gangrene. So I don't know who Fournier was, whether they were a doctor or a sufferer, but yes. Any sort of bloody flesh-eating bacteria is pretty gross. Peter, Victoria is so zesty. It's weird because obviously it's a tiny number of cases, but the concern is it's a sudden surge in cases. And as we have seen repeatedly since the start of the year, left unchecked, this is a disease that, if it grabs hold, spreads exponentially, as the whole thing of it's not a disaster until it is a disaster. So how do I know which stuff in particular, Peter? I feel like doing the Game of Thrones lies about Tyrion Lannister, because I'm only a little guy too. It's what I do. I drink and I know things. Sometimes, blood orange juice and lemonade, but I actually might have, because I've still got lots of my milk clarified cocktails in the fridge that I can just quickly pour myself one. But I do actually want to taste. There's a somewhat unusual ingredient I have called cachaça, which is a lot of people get angry if you say it's rum, but it's basically a Brazilian version of rum. The base for rum is usually molasses, which is the boiled down sugarcane juice, whereas the base of cachaça is just sugarcane juice, not molasses. It hasn't, I think. Peter, we could get into semantics now. COVID-19 is a disease. Coronavirus is a virus. Viruses cause diseases. The human immunodeficiency virus, HIV, caused AIDS. See, I drink and I know stuff. Bobo, hello. AD is in hospital. They are looking after him. He hates it, but he is also somewhat resigned. He's suffering somewhat. He has very poor motor control. Oh, yes, Peter is on Facebook, Luke. Yes. He has very poor motor control of his hands and fingers at the moment, and he can't really stand up or walk very far at all without falling over quite heavily. So he is under very close scrutiny in the hospital at the moment, which he grumbles about, but they're looking after him. He's just not in a position to look after himself right now. I got sidetracked. I was talking about cachaça, Brazilian cousin of rum. And I got some just to have some. I got Jesus. Because I've only been keeping track of when I bought bottles this year. I bought the cachaça a long time ago, at least a year ago. Might have been 2 years ago, because I don't use it very much. It's, one of the specialty spirits they use for special drinks. But I'm finally finishing the bottle of cachaça, and so I got a new one while I was out. But I've got a tiny bit of the old one. I think I want to taste them side by side and see if they taste notably different, because I drink this one so rarely. Yes, Bobo, he is not happy, and thank you for the best wishes. I do pass them on to him. He appreciates it enormously. He's a big believer in the power of positive thinking and positive wishes from other people. So he appreciates all the positive words and emotions and support. But yes, he thinks they're probably going to keep him for months, because you need to go full rehab, because he can't physically function on his own at the moment. It isn't safe. So it'd be some significant rehab and physical therapy to get him back to being a bit more autonomous, as he likes to be, as most of us like to be. So yes. Good evening, Stella. How are you this fine day? I'm always trying to keep up with, we were talking about Victoria and the COVID cases. Never know when there's going to be an announcement about something. Ooh, what's this quote? Spike in coronavirus cases certain to result in significant community transmission. On Tuesday, Victoria, which is today, Victoria recorded its 7th consecutive day of a double-digit increase in cases. 17 new cases identified overnight. 1 from hotel quarantine, 2 are associated with known outbreaks, 3 are subject of routine testing, 11 are still under investigation. See, that's the troubling number. When the number of we don't know where this person contracted the virus keeps going up, That's the worrying one. Because if we found that one, there's going to be other ones that we don't know about. So we're kind of balanced. Cecilia in Sweden, are we in lockdown? We have restrictions. There are a range of restrictions. We were just on the cusp of coming out of restrictions, and the state where I live, Victoria, is suddenly getting an increase in cases. And like I say, it's in double digits. And this is not deaths. This is cases. No one's died for a little while. These are new cases. So the fact that we were so close to having no new cases and seemed like no transmission, to suddenly get a dozen or more a day is a big warning sign that it could easily get out of control again, even though we just had it almost completely under control. So it's a bit concerning. So we're not in lockdown as such, but there are a lot of restrictions on the operation of venues like cafes, restaurants, bars, etc. I've been working from home for 3 months. Peter, I really enjoy having you on the live streams when you can watch. It's always fun. It's fun to just be able to interact with people. So that's why I keep doing it. I mean, to state the bleeding obvious, I started doing a lot of live streams, like not quite every night, but usually at least 5 nights a week. And it was the idea of like, oh God, we've got this weird thing where we have to stay home, where we're not allowed to go out. We interact online and it feel a bit more normal. So that's why I started doing so many live streams. And also my head got in a weird space. I haven't really been doing pre-recorded videos at all. I've done a tiny number in the last 3 months. And I mean, on the Angry Aussie channel, been doing heaps of stuff on my cocktail channel, which you should check out if you haven't seen me making cocktails. That's a lot of fun. I'm quite enjoying that. Put up a new one tonight where I did my milk clarified cocktail, clarified with almond milk rather than dairy milk. So yeah. So Cecilia, you had restrictions, travel ban, government lifted about 2 weeks ago. Guess what happened? Cases went up. Yeah, okay. Yeah, you can't really travel between states except between New South Wales and Victoria at the moment. A lot of the other states closed their borders. So yeah, a lot of travel restrictions, a lot of business, commerce, work, education restrictions. They were just starting to relax, and now we're not sure. And then you're having an elderflower smash cocktail. Really good with Asian salad and chicken. That does sound a winning combination. I like it. Invisible chicken. This is your social interaction other than your parents. What am I here for, man? I'm not going out anywhere. This is my social interaction because I'm still working from home. So I have work meetings, which is not really socializing. It's interacting with humans, not really social interaction. Although they're actually pretty good where I'm working. They try to have some social elements, have at least one time to get together each week and talk about stuff that's not work. Just say, hey, what's happening, and try and do some entertainment and whatnot. So yeah, this is my main social interaction. I did visit AZ in the hospital the other day, and he's very anxious for me to visit more. I think it's driving him crazy being in there and not being able to have the sorts of conversations he likes to have. And yes, he's kind of starved for that because he just talked at me for 2 hours. I did a lot of nodding and because he just wanted to talk, which is completely understandable in his circumstance, being in this hospital with nobody he knows. So, hopefully that's all looking up. Peter, this is your social interaction too. It's gone. I mean, if you follow on the rules, you're not getting a lot of social interaction happening. And will Aidsy be able to do more live streams? Well, he's got his iPad, which he managed to make work. So that was good. I haven't really heard. He wanted to do some more. Now I haven't really heard from him for a couple of days. And so, okay, I think that means he's probably having to sleep a lot, and I'm quite unwilling to disturb that, because if I contact him and say, "Hey, you're going to come on a live stream," he'll say yes, even if he should say no, even if he's not really up to it, and I feel really guilty about that. So I'm waiting for him to contact me, essentially. So we shall see what happens there. But I will be working from the city on Friday, one of the very rare times I do that. And he's at St. Vincent's, which is right near where I work. So I will try and see him then. Peter, Aidsy has an iPad and hospital Wi-Fi, so theoretically he can. Cecilia, Aidsy would love a get well card. The easiest way is to send it to the angry mailbox, in fact, which I will make sure I get right. I think I know it, but I'm just going to make it. That is not what I was looking for. Contacts. Okay. This is the angry mailbox. GPO box 3290 Melbourne 3001. So that's the angry mailbox for anyone who wants to send anything to Aidsy. I will pick it up and give it to him. That is the easiest way to get something to him. I'm sure you can send stuff to him at the hospital, but then we don't know if he might get moved. Ooh, Annette, you had a few friends over for cocktail on your leave. Nice, awesome. Young Mr. Angry is actually at a friend's place, lives just around the corner, basically. Well, same suburb anyway. Us humans need a bit of interaction. I bet you're saying I should wear a mask when I visit Aidsy. It's very interesting in the hospital. They've got quite strict rules. They've limited visiting hours to 2 hours. They say that patients can only have a total of 2 visitors on a given day. The door to the building was locked. It was permanently staffed. Someone had to come and open the door, and then they did a temperature check and got contact details so they could do contact tracing in case anyone did test positive who'd been in the hospital. And so they were quite rigorous. And of course, the hand sanitizer, they always have that in hospital, and I always use it in hospitals. It's the double-edged thing when you're going into a hospital. You want to put hand sanitizer on before you go in and see someone to spare them from all the horrible filth that you got on you from the outside world. And then it's also a good idea to do hand sanitizer or hand wash as you leave to clean off all the horrible germs that are floating around in a hospital, because that's a thing that happens in hospitals. Oh, and you're actually in one of the Rona hotspots. Whoops. Well, I won't ask you to incriminate yourself as to if you did any hugs or kisses or whatnot, because that's apparently what's causing these outbreaks in these extended family groups. That when they kept having these family get-togethers, and they wouldn't obey the physical distancing rules. And so they just kept giving it to each other. And then the kids went to school. They gave it to someone at school. So I'm not actually in one of the Rona hotspots. They're kind of around me, but they're a bit further out. But yeah, the ABC website has a little thing where you can put your postcode in to see if you're in the Rona hotspot. And you got pissed and talked a little bit too close together right near the end. See, that's what getting pissed does to you. Yes, I'm passing judgment on the drinking of alcohol. The person who has all that. Ugh. What about half of those this year? It's really funny. Like, it's recycling night tomorrow. I was taking out some recycling, and it's one of those weird coincidences. Sometimes multiple bottles will run out in the same week, and I was actually threw out 3 bottles this week. There's and these were all things I'd had for well over 6 months, because they're not on the list of stuff I started recording in March. Could have been much longer than that. So it was like an empty bottle of chartreuse, of what else was it? Bacardi, and it was something else as well. Cannot remember. I'm actually about to finish a bottle of cachaça too. So it's funny. Sometimes I empty multiple bottles in the same week, and so I'm like throwing them out and going, well, if you were throwing out 3 bottles of booze every single week, that would be a bad thing. Oh, Kirsten, I've got too many bottles I've collected. And if I get a really special bottle, I keep it. But by and large, I kept all the bottles that I have room to keep. I've got bottles and jars and whatnot to be reused, but I don't have any space to store any more bottles. So I really only do it with very special ones. L3, all hail Nintendo. Yes. Nintendo 64, such a good platform. Cecilia, it's the devil juice. It's the devil juice. I'm going to try some devil juice in a bit. Still got my juice to go. My blood orange juice. Cecilia, you only had an SNES, missed out on N64. N64 was such a leap. It had the first real 3D simulating games, like Super Mario 64 was fucking legendary. I mean, yeah, technically there had been 3D simulating games like Wolfenstein and Doom for a while, but they were really blocky and shit, whereas the Nintendo 64 games were just really free-flowing and would move in all dimensions. Like I said, notably, like Super Mario 64 was one of the launch games. Also had 2 absolutely killer Zelda games, the all-time great Ocarina of Time and the almost as good Majora's Mask. And just a whole range. Like a bunch of stuff we take for granted now was real breakthrough stuff on the Nintendo 64. Visible Chicken, you had Game Boy, a DS, and a Switch. Okay. I had Game Boy, and I had an N64. We did end up getting a Wii and a Wii U. I got a PlayStation 2, and now I've got a PlayStation 4 and a Nintendo Switch. So, Safa, you still have a GameCube. Nice. Never had a GameCube. Yes, Catherine, 4 controllers on the N64. So you could play a couple of the 4-player games. Everyone talks about GoldenEye, which I never had, but I had a very similar one called Perfect Dark, which I really enjoyed. Like this female super spy going around, and it was a good multiplayer thing. Kirsten, you had a Vantage Australian Spirit and Blood Orange with your dehydrated blood orange. Vantage is not gin because there's no juniper, but a lot of Aussie botanicals are pretty good. Okay, so Vantage is an Australian herbal beverage. But kind of like Okar Gold is its own thing. It doesn't really meet anything. Oh yes, L3 Mario Kart. Mario Kart 64 was amazing. Invisible Chicken, an Xbox One and a 360 and a PlayStation 2. Don't have any Xboxes. I think the PlayStation 2 probably still works. Stella, you're a Perfect Dark fan too. I loved Perfect Dark. So the N64 controller was confusing for a 7-year-old. It was a very, very, very different sort of controller. It's funny, when I first got the N64, little Miss Angry she was a toddler. And she liked watching me play, and because she just liked the bright colors and whatnot, and it's like a cartoon. It was great. And then she kind of grabbed the controller off me one day, and she just worked out if she like fiddled with it, everything moved. Like she wasn't doing anything in particular. She was just making it move. But yeah, within about a year, she was dexterous enough to actually play some of the games. And I remember she absolutely blew my mind one time, because this is back in the days you had to put your TV on a particular channel to play your video game. Had to be on the special channel. And so one day she sat down, like she switched on the Nintendo and switched on the TV, and it was on a TV station. And me and her mum were kind of smirking like, oh, what's she going to do now? Because that's not the Nintendo. And is when you get the thing, kids watch you, toddlers, babies watch you. They watch you and they copy you. So she sat down with the controller and then stared in annoyance at the screen because it wasn't the Nintendo. I was having a bit of a giggle, and she just walked over to the TV and manually changed the channels till it was on AV1 and the Nintendo came up. And I had no idea she understood you had to change, or how to change channels. It was really wild. Joshua, N64 controllers are oddly big, stretched out compared to now. Switch controls. That is actually true, yes. The N64 did make you put your hands in a funny position. And the Switch is a bit easier to manage. Switch is very, very clever design. Like, that must have been really difficult to engineer. You know, the 2 bits on the side, and they have motion sensors in them, and you know, you can click them onto a thing, so it's like a controller. You can click them onto the pull-out screen, so you can play it as a portable. It's a truly brilliant piece of engineering, the Switch. I'm very impressed by it. I think people underestimate how difficult that would have been to build. And because they had to conceptually do some quite new things. And they wouldn't have known if it was going to work at first. They wouldn't have known it was going to work until they got it to work. It's pretty bloody amazing, honestly. Luki, what, are you getting annoyed with Animal Crossing, or are you getting annoyed with everyone else playing Animal Crossing? because everyone on social media seems to be talking about Animal Crossing. I don't even get to play on the Switch. I think I've mentioned this before. That Young Ms. Angry actually bought the Switch when she was working, and she has it in her room. She's like online gaming all day with her friends, sometimes with online PC games and sometimes with Switch games. So she has the Switch in her bedroom. Both my offspring spend most of their day in their room interacting. They're still getting their social interaction. They're doing it online for many hours a day. Aussie Gun Bunny, mate. G'day, g'day, g'day. Oh, damn it. Oh, God. If you're sick, I imagine they stick the probes in you. You can't be sick now without them sticking the probes in you. One of my team at work was sounding pretty fucked today. And he had a cough. It was a throat thing. It's like, oh, dude, you coughing? You definitely got to get the fucking probes stuck up your nose and down your throat. They don't let you get away without getting probed these days. They didn't test you. I thought it was like if you had a sniffle, you got tested now. But yeah, my workmate is definitely getting tested because he has the cough. Yeah, I am not looking forward to the probes in the face holes. I think we're all going to get it done at some point. I assume I will at some point. But I haven't been fucking going anywhere, and I don't have any symptoms, so it's like, oh, I'm not going to. Get that thing fucking jammed right back of your sinuses and then one right down your throat. Just a head cold. Aussie Gun Bunny, I'm amazed they didn't test you. If you're in Melbourne, you'd be tested, man. You would be tested. Maybe the testing's not as readily available in your neck of the woods. I can understand that, actually. But in Melbourne, dude, you sniff, and a ninja doctor jumps from behind the bushes where they were watching you and fucking sticks the swabs into you. I sound like a mad conspiracy theorist. I'm just making jokes. I don't think testing is a bad thing. Yes, Kirsten. Oh, you had that probe, didn't you, Kirsten? I'm just conceptually not looking forward to it. Yeah, I assume I will get it one day because I think we're all going to get it one day. Safa, I didn't hear that. You're saying the Melbourne closed some of their testing things 1 p.m. today. Well, I think it was yesterday, Monday, they did 18,000 tests, and like the previous high had been about 8,000 in a day. But all the news on the weekend about the surge of cases led to a surge of people showing up to the testing venues. Yeah, we did 18,000 tests in a single day. Aussie Gun Bunny, you've had it years before. Annette's had the probe this time. Yes, Luke, much like the ninja doctors who, if you sniffle, jump from behind a bush and stick a swab up your nose, where the ticket inspectors in Melbourne just suddenly appear. They're fucking jerks, the most hated people in Melbourne. Get a job where you're not a complete fucking asshole. Kirsten, Trump said they're slowing tested because they keep finding cases. See, he says moronic shit like that. And when you say that should actually be a crime, you saying that, it was a joke. You fell for a joke. And it's just like, no, just like the world's gotten so stupid, I can't cope anymore. I just can't cope. Kirsten, you're a hipster before it was cool. All right. Safa, I don't really, going to the supermarket doesn't really bother me. Bothers Mrs. Angry, so she's happy to let me go to the supermarket. It doesn't really bother me. I still try and give people space, and I get fucking annoyed at people who don't. Yeah, it doesn't really bother me, because I don't know that there have been any cases where they've gone, oh, I think this person got it in the supermarket. Aussie government more hated than Collingwood. You don't even follow AFL and you hate Collingwood. Oh no, ticket inspectors are the lowest of the fucking low. Just the worst. L3, new PSU in the PC. I don't know exactly what that is. Luke, Port Power. Top of that. Who remembers This Is Serious, Mum? TISM. One of the songs when they were just trying to get famous for controversy, where they just went totally over the top when they released a single called I Might Be a Cunt, But I'm Not a Fucking Cunt. And you made me think of it, Luke, because with Port Power, the two Adelaide teams are Port Power and the Crows. And one of the lines is, I might barrack for Port Power, but I'd never support the Crows. So it's like, I might be bad, but I'm not that bad. L3, it's a power supply. Okay, cool. Thank you. L3, yeah, what's the sad joke? Friend jokes about Corona, but the supermarket used alcohol wipes on everything. Actually, the Coles supermarket near me has been very good about wiping things down and providing hand sanitizer. The Woolworths, honestly, not as much. I did see that stuff. I'm kind of excited at Pokemon Snap coming to Switch. If it's an open world game, rather, because I think I have Pokemon Snap for the N64. That was like you were literally on rails. It was like you were in a minecart and you couldn't change route. If they made Pokemon Snap an open world game, like on the scale of Breath of the Wild, that would be so good. That would be so good. Just really just being able to aimlessly wander and get pictures of Pokemon. And Visible Chicken has a Zelda Switch controller. Ah. Oh, yes, that is a weird thing with the different consoles. The X, Y, A, B buttons in different positions is very weird. So with the Collingwood stuff, Invisible Chicken, your dad and brother are Collingwood supporters. Whoops. Facts over feels, yes. The N64 coming out 24 years ago is a good way to feel old, quite honestly. Luke, Pokemon Go I was playing Pokemon Go today, actually. I think Pokemon Go is still really profitable. So it's never really gone away. It stopped that really weird launch period where thousands and thousands and thousands of people were out playing it all the time, and you had really fucking weird mobs of people behaving really obnoxiously. Yeah, I think it's still a very profitable game. Oh god, I was just looking at the news to see was there something else. Yes, there's the conservative darling former High Court judge Dyson Hayden is being sued for sexual harassment. There's been I'll actually get this summary from the news. But former High Court Justice Dyson Hayden sexually harassed 6 junior court staff, an independent investigation has found. High Court issued a statement late on Monday saying it became aware of allegations against Hayden last year, immediately began an inquiry led by former Inspector General of Intelligence and Security, Dr. Vivian Tom. The investigation found that 6 former judges' associates were harassed by Hayden. Hayden has categorically denied the allegations. Current Chief Justice of the High Court, Susan Kiefel, said the findings were of extreme concern to her in the court. And the fucking conservative politicians and media have already decided to defend the sexual abuser and just go, oh, but that wasn't a court though. No, that's not official. It's like, oh, fuck you people. Always rushing to defend sexual abusers, rapists, and pedophiles if they're in positions of power in conservative institutions. Jesus. Oh, I say, Kirsten, down in South Bank where you live, there are obnoxious Pokemon Go people around. You can tell when there's a new release because of dickheads everywhere. That's interesting. Safa, do I buy more physical or digital games? I buy almost no physical games. So, sorry. No, I thought you meant like board games and stuff. You mean physical discs or digital? Physical, because digital's bullshit because you run out of storage or they change the hosting things and stuff you bought is gone. I will buy digital downloads for my PC, and that's only of quite old games that are being sold really cheap, like, $20 or under. But games for the PlayStation or the Switch or whatever, I'll get the physical things rather than getting a digital download. Exactly right. Facts over feels. That's a really good summary. They get those visceral defenses. It's not logic, emotions, and those same people saying the left is snowflakes. But one of the lolly companies. We've had two really fucking racist lollies in Australia for years. One's called Redskins. I used Redskins to flavor some vodka years ago, made some red vodka. And I said in the video, like, because I knew other people would say, this is a lolly called Redskins. Yes, I know. And the other one was these like chocolate jelly babies called Chicos. So like they're like little Mexican babies. And they're changing the name of both of those too late. And so the fucking hard right wingers keep going, the left is snowflakes. Someone says, I'm changing the name of this. They lose their shit. It's thing. L3, Redskins are racist. The packaging used to have imagery of Native Americans on it. They dropped that imagery a couple of years ago, but they kept the name. The Redskins is indeed a very racist name. Very yummy lolly, mind you. I'm quite fond of them. But the iconography, definitely racist. Yes, and gollywogs. Facts over feels. Jesus fuck. You keep getting Australians defending blackface and gollywogs, and it's just like, no, read a book. I did see something about that, Safa. The Mixer streaming platform shutting down, moving people to Facebook gaming. I was like, Safa, yes, they still sell Redskins. Absolutely. It was just in the news today that the company behind it is going, okay, we're going to change. We won't call them Reds. We haven't actually decided what we're changing it to. But yeah, we are just fessing up to that's racist as fuck. And calling the chocolate jelly babies little Mexican babies is also dodgy as fuck. So, yes. Somewhat belated. Again, it's like when Americans come to Australia and see a big wall of coon cheese and they just stare in disbelief and go, fucking what? What? Great gosh almighty. It's a funny old world. There was a toothpaste that, up until relatively recently, was quite widely sold in Southeast Asia. You could get it in some Asian grocers in Australia. It was called Darky, and the mascot was like a black and white minstrel, with the big white teeth. And a while back, I don't know, a decade or maybe two, a while back, they changed both the name and the mascot. They changed it to Darlie rather than Darky, and the face on it was no longer a minstrel. It was just a person. Annette, no. Where Kraft say the name Coon Cheese comes from, it's not the family that owned the company. It was a chemist. I think he was an American chemist who came up with a particular configuration for maturing cheddar cheese. So Lee's technically not the original maker. He was a chemist who came up with a particular configuration for maturing cheese that was the inspiration for it. There is some doubt as to how honest that is. I have seen like a researcher sharing anecdotal evidence, people who worked in the industry said that no, Coon was actually a racist joke. The cheese used to be packed in black wax, and that's why they called it Coon. That's one of those things where I do the asterisk citation needed. I heard that allegation for the first time recently. I think I'd want more than anecdotal evidence for that, but it was an academic researcher, not an absolute rando, who came up with it. But yes, let's just say there is a non-zero chance that we will end up discovering that the name was definitely a racial slur, and this whole story about this chemist named Coon was actually a cover story. Not that he didn't exist, but coming up with the story it was named for him was a cover story. And that is also a true story. Well gifted Aspie. Cornflakes were designed by Dr. Kellogg to stop men from masturbating. He was a weird motherfucker. Kellogg was obsessed with foreskins and masturbation, and he was weird AF. What decade was the cheese configured in originally? So let's consult the internet. Coon cheese. Now the official website's history. Let's see what Wikipedia says. It goes straight to first launched in 1935 by Fred Walker, named after its American creator, Edward William Coon of Philadelphia, who patented a method subsequently known as the Cooning process. Holy fucking shit. Jesus. It's for fast maturation of cheese via high temperature and humidity. Its name, which it shares with a racial slur, has been defended by its previous manufacturers, Kraft and dairy farmers, despite campaigns to change it. Jesus, it keeps changing ownership. That's interesting. Wow. That's really interesting how many times it's changed ownership. Cool. So that is a misleading line, saying it was launched in 1935, named after its American creator who died in 1934. So this guy was not the creator of Kuhn cheese. He was the creator of a process for fast maturation of cheese. So I think it's likely to be quite complicated. L3 on the reason Comedy Central started Drunk History. The thing that really cracks me up about the show Drunk History, if you don't know it, it's this guy, he gets, they're usually comedians that he gets on, and they have one bit of history that they really love. And so, okay, he gets them on, gets them really drunk, and he says, now tell me your favorite history story. And so they tell it, and it's really sort of, nah. And they do this thing where they get actors or comedians to act out the bit that this, and lip syncing what the drunk person's saying. It's really entertaining, but it's pretty fucking funny. That the show has a disclaimer about get support for alcoholism. Ooh, Lee, Tim Hortons getting bought by McDonald's will piss off Canadians. Yes. Okay, Bobo says Trump's done a crazy tweet, so now we have to check what the Trumpolo is doing. Ooh, that's a weird photo someone's passed. Just an incredibly unusual pattern in the clouds. Look, I'm going to share this with you. I'm assuming this. I'll give this person the benefit of the doubt and say they're not faking it. But yeah, look at that that triangle in the clouds. I mean, obviously it would be trivially easy to do that in Photoshop, but for the moment, I'm taking that person at their word that that's just a weird, absolutely weird random thing that's come up in a cloud. There you go. Okay, so back to the quest for what the fuck did Trump say? I got distracted by that picture, which showed up immediately in my feed. What is Trump doing? Donald J. Trump. Is it the vandalism one? I have authorized the federal government to arrest anyone who vandalizes or destroys any monument or statue or other such federal property in the US up to 10 years in prison per the Veterans Memorial Preservation Act or other such laws that may be pertinent. This action is taken effective immediately, but may also be used retroactively. Actually, there are specific laws that stop you from doing that retroactively. There will be no exceptions. So I'm thinking that's what you were referring to. Bobo, the thing about prosecuting people for tearing down monuments. Yes. Well, Trump regularly says he's going to do something and it has no legal meaning. So being sarcastic, L3 about Trump being the lesser evil to Clinton. Yeah, well, Clinton just would have been boring establishment shit. Like Obama, but even more boring and more establishment. But yeah, Trump's just made everything screwy. It's very strange. Is that when you met Trump, Lee said he doesn't want to be in the same country as you? Damn. Okay. What's the time? It was about halfway. I can again have a drink. Tell you what I'm going to do. Actually, have a drink. I'm going to do, because I've been doing taste tests recently. I want to do a taste test on this. Okay. So. This is the cachaça I got a long time ago. I don't even remember how long ago. At least a year ago, I think. Maybe longer. And it's almost gone. Canario cachaça. Pot still cachaça from Rio, Brazil. And so I had to get another one. And I got this was actually just from Dan Murphy's. See, it's a clear liqueur. It's a cute thing that you see the colourful thing on the back of the bottle. It's pretty neat. Sagatiba Cristalina Cachaça, slightly less ABV. Our cutting-edge multi-distillation process produces an exquisitely clean spirit for unmatched versatility and mixability, perfect in a caipirinha, what add Brazilian flair to any of your favorite cocktails. So I just want to compare these two and see if I can taste a different. My unsophisticated palate can taste a difference. Oh, nice Quebecois swear called Trump tabarnak, which is a fucker in. Nice. Cecilia, tingle the taste buds, daddy. Okay, so this what everyone says is it kind of smells like mown grass, and it does, like in a good way. So I'm just going to have a little taste of each. It's really light. It's good. It is. It is. It's weird. It's grassy. It's very herbal. It's slightly sweet. Fairly easy to drink. Nice and warm going down. Okay, I should rinse my palate. To try and tell the other one, I'll just rinse my little shot glass. Yeah. Very tasteful and spat off camera, so you didn't have to see it. Although you could possibly hear it. L3, you're going all over the place in the tech. Keyboard, 2 terabyte hard disk, mouse, new power supply. Probably going to upgrade my PC. So, well, we get that neat cracking noise as I open the bottle for the first time. I have to check if I added this to my booze list, actually. I'm trying to keep track of all the booze I buy, see how long it lasts. All right. Ooh, I poured way more in there. Similar but different smell. It's really quite pleasant smell. It is like not all spirits smell good, in my humble opinion. That one smells really quite good. Yeah, no, there's something really, and it's weird. I feel like it's other people have put the idea into my head, so that's what I smell. But it really does kind of smell like mown grass. Ooh, and then it's warm going down. Yeah. That's not bad. I mean, like the most popular drink with cachaça, don't know if it's officially Brazil's national drink, but it's the most popular one. It's just called caipirinha, and it's pretty simple. You cut up lime, like you don't even squeeze the juice. You just cut up a lime, put it in the bottom of the glass, muddle it a bit so the juice starts to come out, and then put a bunch of sugar on it, either caster sugar or like demerara sugar on top of it, and then pour the cachaça on top. And that's a really popular drink in Brazil, and in fact, throughout a lot of South America. Sorry, well, gift Aspie saw Milo Yiannopoulos at uni. You were interested right up until he called Trump daddy. Oh, he's just always saying stuff to be outrageous. He's such a fucking piece of shit. L3, the drink is Brazilian. This, in terms of the actual shop of where it's from, I got this from Dan Murphy's. They often have different cachaças. This one I got back then from a specialty bottle shop in the Melbourne CBD called the Wig Cellar. If you want to get really unusual, hard to get, possibly not sold anywhere else spirits, and you're in Melbourne, go to the Wig Cellar in the CBD. I get so much stuff from them. So, yeah. That sounds about right, Facts Over Feels. Milo's new tour, the Outrageous Fuckwit tour. Yeah. Yep. Safa, I am sure the president of Belarus is even weirder. I think there are a couple of very interesting leaders in former Soviet bloc countries. I believe Turkmenistan has a real special guy running shit as well. So there are a couple of real special guys. But the thing is, they're running countries with comparatively small populations and of comparatively little influence on the outside world, whereas the US, with 320 million people, the largest standing army in the world, and nuclear weapons and economy that can lay ruin to the whole world, it just means something more when the person theoretically in charge in the US is a fucking lunatic. Ooh. It's got a cachaça does have a really unique flavor. It's technically kind of rum and technically not. 10 million population in Belarus. Okay, thank you. I'm learning stuff. I did not know how many people were in Belarus. A bit more of this one. This one is probably a little sharper, has a bit more distinctive taste. But they both have a very similar sort of feel in the mouth. Interesting. They are slightly different. Safi, Putin wants to be Lukashenko. Yeah. Putin is pretty keen on being a fucking dictator. Something going back a long way from when he worked with the KGB. Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, you know, Putin's just been bending the constitution of Russia to his will. You're not meant to be able to hold on to power like he has, and he's just been twisting and subverting the constitution to maintain his grip on power. Okay, that was an interesting experiment. There is definitely sort of a base similarity between these two, but they have their own sort of unique, and possibly this one promotes itself. The multi-distillation, multiple distillations tend to make things smoother. This is maybe a bit smoother than this, a bit sharper. So, but they do have that same base flavor. And again, neat packaging. The colored sticker on the back, making a little picture. That is pretty neat. There's this one. This would make a good lampshade. You can see the contours in the glass. Sort of get a glass cutter and cut it around there, and then run a globe through it. Be a good light shade. Ooh, Safi, what's happening in the Constitution vote on July 1? That is interesting. Oh, there you go. And Lee's son's Elijah's birthday is July 1. So you have your own reason to celebrate. I'd be interested in what is happening in a constitution. Oh, and that's also Canada Day. There you go. The South Park song from the South Park movie, Blame Canada, just popped into my head. Oh, dear. Oh, what's that we're talking about, Annette? Fine grain white sugar. We got onto caster sugar at some point. Yes, Cecilia, I agree. They are really nice bottles in different ways. This one's a very plain bottle, but they've done a very clever thing with the label. Whereas this one is, the bottle is more interesting. We were talking before about keeping bottles. I won't keep this one, but I feel slightly bad about not keeping it because it is a really nice. It's embossed. It's got the Carnaria logo there. It's got Brazil embossed there. I do feel slightly bad about not keeping the bottle, but like I said, I don't have enough room because I'm already keeping a bunch of bottles and jars and whatnot. Luke, first thing that came into your head for the South Park movie was Uncle Fucker. That was a funny song. They do write good songs. I think the dudes are actually probably dodgy as fuck, but whoever writes the songs for South Park writes good songs. Just objectively good songs, not just funny, but structurally good songs. Get my little glass out. I said glass. No, that's gonna have a. Okay, settle down, Fino Sherry. Let's stay in the fridge. Which one? I might have this one. It's a rum drink. Drinking rum and Coca-Cola. Working for the Yankee dollar. That's an interesting one, Annette. Keep the bottle but bury it in the backyard. When someone finds it in the future, they'll feel like archaeologists. I'm really liking that as an idea. Okay, I'm assuming you know the words to Blame Canada better than me, if that's what you're quoting there, Lee. Now you know Canadian ABC. Susie likes hairy balls. What do you think of these? I don't remember the lyrics. So I just remember it was Kyle's mum singing Blame Canada. But what was particularly good is at like a climactic scene in the movie, they blended three of the songs. I think it was three songs. I don't think it was just two. I can only remember two. Maybe it was only two. It was Kyle's mum leading Blame Canada and Satan singing the song about Up There. And it was very, very, very artfully done. Like I said, they're good at songs. Oh, there you go, Annette. You found an old medicine bottle in the backyard of your first share house and you got so buzzed about it. Okay, Safa, you asked that question before. How many cocktails to drink so I can drive legally under 0.5? One. Unless you are drinking unusually light cocktails, in almost all cases, a second cocktail will put you over 0.05. With particular cocktails that are pretty full on, a single cocktail will put you over 0.05. But different cocktails have different alcohol content, but I feel confident in saying, generally speaking, you have 2 cocktails in an hour, you'll be over 0.05. Cecilia, you're Captain Morgan and Coke. There you go. It is a good mixer. Fuck, this is good. Oh, I'm so obsessed with milk clarifying cocktails because it keeps the flavors but does something to them. I really like it. It's worth the hassle of going through the clarification process. But that's also why I tend to not do it for one drink, because it is a bit of hassle for one drink. But if I do it to higher volumes, so you're getting 2 or 3 drinks out of it, then it's kind of worth it. I mean, traditionally, it was literally called a milk punch. It was to fill a fucking punch bowl. You look at the old, this first one I followed recipe for, Mimi's Milk Punch. Okay, this is a classic sort of like 1700s recipe. And this is, if you do it, this is for a fucking punch, right? So it's 1.5 cups of cognac or brandy. They're actually saying do Vs or Vias, and it's like, okay, well, that's pretty over the top. So 1.5 cups, not ounces, 1.5 cups of cognac, half a cup of rum, and then they suggest lemon zests, orange zests, 1 cup of whole milk, 1 cup of water, 1 cup of brewed black tea, half a cup of sugar, 1/4 cup lemon juice, 1/4 cup orange juice. And this is really involved. So, okay, so it's like peel the rinds off a lemon and an orange, put them in a container, add the alcohol, and then they say this is really, they're going to town with bringing out flavors in this. They're saying we get the peels, cover them in alcohol, seal the cover, and put it away for 24 to 48 hours. So then you open the container, take the fruit rind out, discard the rinds, although you can do other stuff with them. Then add sugar, water, black tea, lemon juice, and orange juice to the booze, and then you've got to mix that until all the sugar's dissolved. So now you've got a concoction that's booze that's been infused with fruit rind, fruit juice, sugar, tea, water, and see, they do it back to front. They say add 1 cup of milk. Most people say you've got to add the booze to the milk, not the milk to the booze. So then you wait. And again, they're saying at least an hour. This is bullshit. I've done it multiple times. You only need to leave it for like half an hour. Although maybe for a bigger one, you want to leave it longer. These guys are into leave it longer. Okay, so then you leave it until it's curdled and separated. And then you want something that they say get a fine mesh strainer and they put a big coffee filter in it, and you pour it in there. And this is interesting. They say when a filter no longer lets any liquid through, swap it for a new filter and continue the process. And then once it's all strained through, strain the milk punch through another coffee filter again. Now, maybe for large volumes they do it. When I do it with smaller volumes, like I followed this recipe, it said cups. I just changed it to ounces or shots. So instead of 1.5 cups of cognac, I did 1.5 shots of cognac. Instead of half a cup of rum, I did half a shot of rum. And then, yeah, instead of a cup of tea, I did a a shot of tea. Instead of half a cup of sugar, I did half an ounce of sugar. And instead of quarter of a cup of lemon juice, quarter of a cup of orange juice, I did quarter of an ounce of lemon juice, quarter of an ounce of orange juice. But it's basically, it's the ratios you need. When you get a good recipe, you want to follow the ratios. You can move them up or down depending on the volume you're making, but you need to be aware of the ratios. So one day I'm going to make a big fuck off punch rather than like individual drinks like this. Cecilia of Sweden, where are the recipes? Check out my YouTube channel, Angry Cocktails. There's 3 or 4 milk punch recipes on there, including the one I just uploaded, where instead of using dairy milk to do the clarification, I use almond milk, so it's vegan friendly. Sorry, I think I missed something. What did Locust Troopers say? India, China and China are fighting. That is true. So if you like getting warmed in winter by rum and gin, yeah, rum's pretty versatile. A lot of people say whiskey's more of a winter drink, but you know, anything can be a winter drink. But Cecilia, if you want to see different milk punch recipes, just do a search for, you know, milk punch or milk clarified cocktails. There's heaps of stuff. Like I said, I have several on my YouTube cocktail channel. But there is lots. There are lots of websites. A lot of them have slightly different information. I'd summarize what my key tips for making milk punch. Whatever you do with the booze side, it's got to have acid content, and the easiest way to do that is with citrus juice. Orange isn't as acidic. You can use orange juice, but it's not as acidic as lemon, lime, or pineapple. So you've got to have acid content in the mix. Or grapefruit's another one you can put in. So basically, citrus juice has to be in there. So when you've made up the boozy side, and like I said, if you're making a bigger one, tea is a popular addition, so it's not all booze. It dilutes it a little bit. Whatever flavor tea. Some people come up with really elaborate fruit and spice mixes, like that recipe I was talking about there, Mimi's Milk Punch, just said use fruit peel. Some recipes have really elaborate fruit and spice mixes that they say to put together. It's all going to be, you know, a different flavor you put in. But anyway, you basically, you end up with the drink, whatever it is, however much booze, tea, sugar, citrus juice, other stuff. So the first tip is the volume of the booze to the milk should be like 4:1. So if your complete combined thing, like if you were making a big punch and the complete combined thing was 4 cups of liquid, then it should be added to 1 cup of milk. And you should add the drink to the milk, not the other way around, because it does make a difference. You'll see a lot. Okay, so tip 1, drink to milk 4:1. Tip 2, you'll see a lot of guides saying you have to warm the milk up. You do not. I have made it multiple times without warming up the milk, and it works perfectly. So the milk does not have to be warmed up. Again, some of them say you need to leave the curdling mixture for, you know, this one said from an hour to 24 hours. I often leave it for just half an hour and never have a problem. And so I just filter it through coffee filter, and it's It's weird. Like that recipe talked about, when it won't go through anymore, put a new filter in. I don't really have that problem. It can take a long time. Like even for a mix that's only the size of, say, 2 or 3 drinks, not a huge punch, it can easily take an hour or even more for the drink to drain through. And I will usually put it through at least twice, if not 3 times, to really get rid of all the residue so you get a really clear drink in the end. So yes, and it's fun. So we do. Okay, still talking about India and China and World War III. It's not good. It's absolutely not good. And they're both nuclear power, so that's not good. Ha! And then you're on your second elderflower smash, tempted to get a robo vacuum. Oh yes, one of the automatic robo vacuums. Ah dear. Yes, and I don't think your robo vacuum could mix the drink. Could test the case. I have seen some pretty funny videos of cats riding on the robo vacuums. The cat just becomes one with it, just sits on it and just randomly moves around the house because the little robo vacuum randomly moves around. Locust Trooper, what do I think of CCP? Is that the Chinese Communist Party? A-holes, if that's who we're talking about. I do not like authoritarians. And the Communist Party of China, most definitely authoritarians, most definitely corrupt. So I do not like them. They are a-holes. Yes. Ugh. And it's because I'm a lefty. You have to put up with, well, I don't put up with them, but you have to deal with the people who've become known as tankies. And when I first heard people talking disparagingly about tankies, I had to look it up. I didn't know what it was. A tankie is someone who's so committed to the idea that they're a communist. They will defend communist states no matter what. So, like, for instance, when you point out the Soviet Union rolling tanks into the countries that staged protests and are killing unarmed civilians, they say that's justified in the defense of the glorious communist revolution. So these are people, tankies are people who will shamelessly defend horrible crimes done in the name of communism because their worship of communism is more important than, people. Safi, I don't know how many countries I banned it. If they knew about me, it's quite a few, because I have deliberately done videos. There's been a few countries where they sort of said specific laws. If you say this thing, if you insult the leader, that's punishable by crime. So I said, yep, well, the king of Thailand fucks goats. I've got pictures to prove it. And that's a jailable offense in Thailand. So not going there. And yeah, there's a few countries where they've sort of passed hideous fucking laws saying you can't say this. Cecilia, they're called tankies because of tanks. Because they justified tanks rolling into Romania. They're fucked. Tankies are fucked. Tankies will actually defend the Chinese Communist Party's actions in Tiananmen Square, and they will say that, oh no, those student protests, they weren't brave little students. They were CIA stooges who were counter-revolutionary. And it's like, dude, I don't care if they were. You can't fucking run them over with tanks. So, yeah. Tankies suck. They are not good. And these are, again, that's not an abstract. That one about Tiananmen Square, that's an actual one I've had to deal with. Someone I was kind of friendly with on Facebook, and I just had to say, "Fuck off, Tanky! No, not today, Tanky. No." Ooh, I'm gonna try one of my other drinks. Just having a little, rather than big drinkies. I'm having a little drinkies of these because it's only a Tuesday, so I'm only doing little drinkies. Right, put this one back. This one else. This is the chocolate one, if I remember rightly. Doesn't look chocolate, does it? It's yellow. But before I clarified it, because I had brown creme de cacao in it, this was very dark, opaque even, but it clarified really well. So just have a little bit of that one. I gotta be, because this tastes so good. Hey, Philip, how you doing, buddy? Oh, and you had a tanky flatmate. Yeah, it's a problem when you're a lefty. Locust Trooper, I don't like nationalists anywhere, but some people go to nationalism as a reaction against oppression, and some people go to nationalism as a tool of oppression. So people who want to use their nationalism to attack other people, not fond of them. So yeah, Poland was a bit of a bugbear for the Red Army. They were not keen on submitting. And in fact, it was one of the hotbeds of resistance to Soviet rule back in the good old days of Solidarity, Lech Walesa. Wait, is that something? Is that a bubble or is that something in my drink? I think it was a bubble. Oh my God, that's good. Yeah, and former Pope JP2, Lech Walesa. No, wait, I'm getting that. He was Karol Wojtyla. Lech Walesa was the and again, apologies because I'm sure I'm pronouncing that horribly. He was the unionist with Solidarność. Karol Wojtyla was known as Pope John Paul II. He was Polish and full-on anti-communist, which you would expect when you're actually subjugated by the communists. Philip, Redbubble, I think, is a good merch store. I think they produce very good quality. I think they're good to creators. And they have a local office, which I like as well. I have visited their office in Melbourne a couple of times. They're very nice people. Yeah, I'm definitely a thumbs up with Redbubble as a merch store because it's like on demand, so it doesn't cost you anything. So you don't get as big a margin. Like if you were super popular, you wouldn't use Redbubble. You'd go somewhere where you got 1,000 T-shirts printed and you made a saving by getting them in bulk, and then you sell them all, and you'd make much bigger margins. But if you're not the sort of person who can sell 1,000 T-shirts, that you'll just sell merch occasionally, Redbubble's awesome because it costs you nothing. Your margin is smaller, but your upfront cost is nothing. To get a big margin, you have to pay upfront. That's the thing. Okay, so I see. Just observing that Canadian health system is better than the US health systems, or that arguably Canada is a better place to live than the US, it's not so much nationalism. It's wanting to subjugate other people because they're not your country. That's nationalism. Locust Trooper, you finished your personal MMA class. Got your first liver shot. Oh, no! Was that a punch or a kick in the liver? Dude, that's not good. Jesus. Invisible Chicken, you were wearing a Redbubble shirt today. I have a couple of, I think I've still got them in my bedroom. test Angry Aussie merch from Redbubble. What I like about Redbubble is, oh, Jesus, a kick to the fucking liver. Jesus Christ, dude. Jesus, that sounds bad. Annette, what you're saying about importing, one of the reasons I like Redbubble is Redbubble has offices and distribution centers in Australia, North America, and Europe. So if an order comes from Europe, it will be fulfilled from the European office. If it comes from North America, it will be fulfilled from North America. And I think they've got one in South Asia as well. If an order comes from South Asia, it will be fulfilled in South Asia. If the order comes from Australia, it will be fulfilled from Australia. So it's not, Redbubble is not particularly cheap, but as an independent person trying to get merch, I think it's really good quality. I mean, I've got merch stuff from the really cheap places, and they were okay. You know, they're not terrible. I don't think the shirt's going to last a long time, but I just feel like Redbubble is a good balance between cost and affordability. Oh, Jesus. Like a trivia, you got kicked in the liver by a first Dan black belt. Jesus. Yes, Cecilia, that is one of the things that works well with Redbubble. If an order comes from the EU, it's actually going to be sourced from within the EU. If the order is from the US, it's going to be sourced from within the US. If the order is from within Australia, it's going to be sourced from within Australia. It doesn't mean the shipping's nothing, but it means it's more manageable. Stella, when you were doing kickboxing, I had white belt spar with brown belt kids, and you managed to kick a 10-year-old in the nuts. There's a weird film with Jesse Eisenberg, came out like a year or so ago, called The Art of Self-Defense. It's really fucking strange. It's funny. It's not bad. It's not a legendary all-time great film. But yeah, if you're looking for entertainment, you want to fill in an hour and a half to 2 hours, it's interesting. And it's very weird. I actually did quite enjoy watching it. But yeah, it's not a hot recommendation for me, but it's a warm recommendation for me. If you've run out of things to watch and the streaming service you have happens to offer The Art of Self-Defense, there are worse ways to spend a couple of hours. Fucking hell, I like that drink. This is dangerous. Talking about this, it might have been you, Safa, who said that it'd be dangerous. I like the drink too much. I drink too much of it. All things in moderation. Unless it's a Friday night, then I'm going right fucking off. So yeah. Invisible Chicken, you like shirt punch shirts. I don't know them. Phil, I think the only Australian office for Redbubble's in Melbourne, but I'm not completely sure. But I'm sure they have all the info about shipping, etc., on the website. And they're really responsive. They're really good. I think if you go to the website, they've probably got a question thing, a feedback thing. I reckon they'll answer your questions if you have questions. Because like I said, I've been in the office a couple of times, and I found them to be really cool people. I think, Owen, you actually have a friend who works at Redbubble and loves it. Yeah, I found them to be really cool people. Lee's got an I Am the Walrus t-shirt. I've got like 50,000 t-shirts. This one comes from Tea Turtle or something. See, it's a Sailor Moon design from one of their Lucky Dips. I didn't pick it. So the stars thing, it's cat. See, it's cat's eyes, and the little moon thing the cat has, and the cat's ears are up here. There's a Sailor Moon silhouette. No, Lucas Trooper, I have not been kicked by a first Dan black belt. I used to do boxing, and I have been punched in the head really fucking hard by a really good boxer. That's fun when you get punched in the head so hard, your legs stop working. That's weird because the two don't seem connected. But when someone goes pa-pam and really jolts your brain and your legs just go, fuck me, I don't want to be part of this anymore. I didn't actually fall down, but it was very close. But it was the weirdest thing. Someone just gets a really bam straight punch into your head, and your legs just go, oh fuck, no, Jesus, I don't like this at all. Like the blow wasn't enough to knock me over, but it bloody bounced my brain enough that my legs were just like, oh fuck, no, Jesus. So do I live close to a corona hotspot? Depends what you mean by close. My immediate answer would be no, but it's a couple suburbs away. David, you think if the Nintendo 64 came out 24 years ago, should have been Nintendo 96? Well, they were very proud of this fact, the 64-bit processing, because their most high-powered competitor was only a 32. I'm probably using the wrong word with bit, but anyway. I like that. Stellar about you kicking the brown belt in the balls. He was more embarrassed that a white belt got him in the balls than he was hurt by the actual hit. Oh, Jesus. Safa, no, I've read that it's basically not possible to close the New South Wales-Victorian border. Yeah, they could restrict the reasons for your traveling. Like, Jesus, particularly in Melbourne, the cops seem to really fucking love having the power to just pull you over and go, what are you doing? What are you doing? And if you didn't give a reason that they liked, they would fine you, or at the very least hassle the shit out of you. Because cops love power. Ugh. Oh, Jesus. Locust Trooper, you're in Brimbank, right in the heart of a corona hotspot. Damn, dude. Damn. You might get locked down, brother. You might get locked down. You want Egg Boy to get George Pell. I think George Pell will be very sparing with public appearances because he fucking knows what he did, and he knows how people feel about what he did. High Court, no, he knows what he did. And he knows what people know about him. So, Musical Elevator, you're in the hottest hot spot. All right. I'm going to try the last of my clarified drip. Actually, it's not the last, but the other one is Mrs. Angry's favorite. So I'll save it for her. This one's virtually clear, which is fascinating because before I clarified it, it was kind of a murky green. But this one is nearly clear. Looks a bit more yellow there on the monitor, but in real life, it's almost clear. It's like a very white wine. David, you've been pulled over by a cop for about 3 years. It's ages since I've been pulled over by a cop, actually. And then your kid's one of Egg Boy's mates going to pass the message along that he should go say hello to Pell. Like, sure, you have cops knock on your door. Yeah, that's what comes from living in sunshine, mate. That's an interesting one, Musical Aviator. You can buy airline food from Gate Gourmet. Oh, goddamn. Yeah, look, I'm pretty sure Pell didn't spend any of his jail time in Gen Pop. I think he might have been in isolation. Would have been at very high risk. Surprisingly, there are some mean people in prison. And this one's really different because this has got mezcal in it, which is very smoky. So the initial taste is actually quite sweet. But then this smokiness from the mezcal comes in. Oh, it's good. Oh my God, David, you had 5 cops knock on your door in 2002 when you were growing hydroponic cannabis. Whoops. Whoops, whoops, whoops. That's an interesting one, Cecilia. Game the system by just don't drive. The cops can't pull you over if you're not driving. That is true. Yes. Like a stripper, I was being a bit tongue-in-cheek there, saying there are some mean people in prison. Not actually served time myself, have visited people in prison. In fact, I'm sure I've told this story with AIDSy before, because we did the same course. That's how we met. We did a theatre course at uni. And one of the plays I was in, we actually did a performance in prison because we went to college in Bathurst, which is west of Sydney. There's a prison in Bathurst, and our lecturer, who was the director of the play, said, yeah, I negotiated with the prison authorities. You're going to do a performance in the prison. And we were like, we're doing what now, Bill? What are we doing? And he said, oh, you're going to do prison. It'll be cool. And so we're like, cool. And a significant majority of the cast had never been inside a prison, like to visit anyone. And so it was a bit daunting. And we were waiting, and then they said, okay, you can go in the hall now. We were waiting in the yard. There were the guards up on the rails with shotguns were trying to act threatening and doing a pretty good job of it. But anyway, we went into the hall where we were going to perform, and there was this really shallow stage and a bit of open floor, and then seats. And a few of us were like, Bill, I notice there's like not a barrier, fence, barbed wire, machine guns between us and the seats. So is that planned? And he's going, you'll be fine. Go. So we're here and they're there, like an arm's length away from where we're performing is the prison dudes. And Bill's like, yeah, you'll be fine. And they were. It was the weirdest fucking experience, though, because from the moment we started, these guys were roaring. It was a constant wall of noise. They were just roaring. And they laughed at the right bits and they cheered at the right bits. And an interesting thing about this play is was The Imaginary Invalid was the name of the play. Very famous Commedia dell'arte piece by Moliere. Theatre nerd. And it has a lot of female roles, and like 6 female roles, and they were all gorgeous. Not everyone in my course was gorgeous, but in this particular play, all the women in it were gorgeous, stunners. And so, yeah, these dudes in the prison getting to watch this play with 6 gorgeous women in nice costumes going on and off, and so they loved that. Anytime a woman was on stage, the noise was just constant. We sold Jean, the show must go on, but the wall of noise was really off-putting. We kind of thought they hated us, and they were just roaring at us all the time, like, you guys suck, and we're just having a go at you. And we kind of thought they hated us, and we finished, and a couple of the guys came up and go, oh, you guys, this is the best thing that has happened in here forever. Can you please come back? This place sucks. That you guys are the best thing that has happened here in years. And we're going, really? We thought you fucking hated us. They go, no, it was the best thing we've had. It's just they express themselves very vocally. Like a normal theater audience is quiet, except when they're meant to laugh, then they'll laugh. Except when they're meant to cheer, then they'll cheer. These guys were roaring non-stop the entire time. Holy cow, it was an experience. David, never been to prison, but you have been to court. Yeah, imagine that was pretty nerve-wracking. Lee, you had an office in the old Fremantle prison. That would have a bit of character to it, I imagine. I used to visit guys in the prison every now and then. Sort of got quite friendly with one guy. It's really weird. Prison, man. And prison in Australia is about 1,000,000 times better than prison in America. But it just institutionalizes people. And it really feels like it's very easy to go, I want people to be punished in prison. Because, yeah, there are some bad fucking people in prison. So a lot of them aren't actually that bad. They've made bad choices, done bad things, or they've just found themselves in bad situations. But they're not all bad people. Some of them are bad people. But they get, no matter who they are, they get institutionalized. And it is really tempting to go, I want them punished. Ooh, no, they shouldn't have a comfy bed. They shouldn't be allowed to watch TV. They shouldn't be allowed to play games. They shouldn't be allowed on the internet. They need to be punished. But they get out. If you don't do rehabilitation, the people who are in prison get out without ever having been shown kindness, without ever having had anyone put any effort into rehabilitating them. It's just years of punishment, and then they're out. So to be honest, all they learn is if you're in a position of power, you should use violence to maintain that power. That's the thing that people who talk about, oh, prison's too easy, it's a holiday camp, they need to be punished. That's the thing people who say that don't take into account that the people who are in prison will get out. And if all you do while they're incarcerated is punish them and torture them, all they learn is when you have power over someone, you should punish them and torture them. I'm sorry, Annette, I get what you're saying about not being allowed on the internet. I don't think they should be allowed on the internet unsupervised. Because yes, they can be devious and manipulative and do creepy things. But okay, even if we forget the internet, they should be taught how to use modern technology. Because if someone's been inside for a few years or a decade and then get thrown into the world, they don't recognize anything. Like I said, punishment is very seductive. But if you don't look at the whole picture and understand, oh, this person's coming back out into the world, you are creating a very big problem. And our system is 1,000,000 times better than the US, and our system still has very big problems. The prison industrial complex in the US is just a fucking disaster. And it is a deliberate and racist disaster as well. Again, I mentioned it before. There's a documentary you can get on a lot of streaming services called The 13th. Is really worth watching. The 13th Amendment to the US Constitution is the one that says slavery is illegal unless the person is imprisoned, and then you can use them as slave labor. And Jesus, didn't they do that? Yes. It's a bit of an eye-opener watching this doco, The 13th. So, and yeah, it doesn't even go as deep into the prison industrial complex as some other docos do. But it's still a real eye-opener. Things that the world's complex, I get really dubious of people like, 3-word slogans and trying to oversimplify things and tough on crime. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? I think it was a line the Vlog brothers, Hank and John Green. I don't know that they came up with it, but they use it. It's a line. The quote is along the lines of, "Life resists simplicity," or the suggestion is basically the real world is not simple. The real world is complex. Overly simplistic descriptions or proposed solutions don't work in the real world. Oh, Fila and Sila, prison sweatshops in the US is amazing. It's astounding what's produced by prison labor in the US. Good evening to you, Lee. I will be going to bed soon, I guess. Luke, I would say there is coronavirus in our prison system. I know the US prison system has a big and underreported problem with the coronavirus. What's that, Annette? Look, meth gators. Tennessee police warn flushing drugs could create high progress of alligator, which is stupid as fuck. Although I believe you do get drug traces in marine life in a lot of big cities, where it's because it's not just flushing drugs. It's people urinating when they've got drugs in their system. There have been multiple reports about marine life having measurable quantities of drugs in their system because of stuff that got into the waterways, which is funny. kind of bad, kind of funny. It's like if you don't laugh, you cry type of thing. But yes, I did see that article, Annette, meth gators. It's absolutely horseshit. Lucas Trooper. Big question, man. Will iPhones eventually be made by US prisoners? I don't think any prisons in the US have systems that are high-tech enough to make high-tech stuff, but they make clothes, they make furniture, like office furniture. What else do they do? I mean, you still get chain gangs who do like roadworks and stuff, but stuff that's manufactured in prisons, clothes is pretty big, furniture is pretty big. They have call centers in the US. Like apparently in the US, if you call a helpline for a company, there's a really good chance it's a fucking prisoner who's answering the helpline on the other end. So, damn. Feeling silly, you don't want to get drug-laced golden showers? Some people are fussy. Some people are fussy. Right, so I've decided the smokiness of mezcal in a clarified cocktail is very good, and chocolate from creme de cacao in a cocktail is very good. So when I finish these ones, which it's not going to be in a hurry because there's a couple drinks worth left in each of them, I think I'm going to have to make a smoky chocolate cocktail and do the clarification on that. Luke, that is a really good point. In Australia, in a lot of places, basically exploit disabled people barely removed from slavery, like $1 an hour. Yeah, the old sheltered workshops. Some of them are dodgy as fuck. So, yeah, we aren't exactly squeaky clean in Australia. We're not as bad as the US. Yeah, Locust Trooper. It's like, look, the US has way more incarcerated people than China. And yeah, China's pretty brutal and exploitative. But the US has way more incarcerated people. And honestly, for reasons just as dodgy as a lot of the incarceration in China, quite honestly. It's quite frightening. The prison industrial complex in the US is fucking terrifying. The idea of for-profit prisons they've actually found judges who were taking bribes from private prisons because the judge was just handing out really heavy sentences for relatively minor offenses. So these privately run prisons would have a constant supply of inmates, which they would profit from. And then they were paying bribes to the judge to keep sending people. That's an actual real thing that happens in the US. So fuck. Yes, and it's a bit rough in the US. Murder hornets and meth gators. And so it's not so much that Scummo thought there was no slavery in Australia. It's that Scummo is such a smug, self-absorbed cunt that talking points are more important than reality with regards to Indigenous Australians. Felipe, Wikipedia has a graphic showing prison numbers. Yeah, the doc I was talking about, the 13th, the growth in incarceration in the US since 1970 is fucking horrifying. Like, I think it's a quarter of all incarcerated people in the world are incarcerated in the US, and the US is only 5% of the world's population, but they're like 25% of the world's incarcerated population. Fucking terrible. Philly and Seal, if that sounds right. A few years ago, an Arizona private prison sued the state for not supplying enough prisoners as per their agreement. Yes, Locust Trooper Scummo fucking sucks. He's an empty suit, that guy. He's a fucking piece of shit. He's not like as psychopathically malevolent as Tony Abbott, but he's a horrible, creepy, lying, slimy piece of shit. He's fucking garbage. He is really bad. I really don't like him. Not one little bit. He is a bad, bad man who does bad, bad things. I do not like that Sam I Am. I do not like him. So for the current US prison population, 2 million. And in 1970 it was like 100,000. And now it's over 2 million. It's like fucking hell. Dave, the war on drugs has a lot to do with people in China. That was done specifically by Nixon to target hippies and black people who he hated. Yeah, see, that's an interesting one, Felipe. US prison population over 2 million. China's prison population 1.7 million. But China's population is, like 4 times higher than the US? 3-4 times higher than the US, but actually has less incarcerated people. Locust Troopers, Friendly Geordie's been obsessing over Scummo lately. Yeah. It's kind of why I haven't been making pre-recorded videos, because I felt like I was saying the same thing over and over. I've got to get my head into the right space. Do want to start doing it again soon. Oh, maybe not. I was thinking like, we're all about to get released from all the fucking lockdown. Then I'll fucking do less of the live streams because we can socialize. But in Melbourne, at least, we are this close to having all the restrictions regressed on us. So maybe we are further away from socializing than I thought. I don't know. They're just like really threatening that they're gonna put in much stricter restrictions again. So We got to see what happens. Yeah, Stella. I think I might be on your side that Friendly Jordies hasn't gone hard enough on Scummo. Fuck, he's the fucking worst. He really is. Fucking slime. Like, sure, he's made like 80 videos of Scummo. But I mean, again, if your thing is political videos, Scummo's the Prime Minister and he's fucking terrible. So of course you're going to make a lot of videos on him. When fucking Abbott was in, I made so many videos about Abbott. Oh, he wound me up so much. Okay, so the incarceration rate, China has 120 people incarcerated per 100,000. Saying Australia is 170 per 100,000. I'm assuming the 655 per 100,000 is the US. Yes, let's not throw stones at the authoritarian commies in China. Although they're authoritarians. Australia's just a nation of cops, basically. Yeah, Annette, you're right. Abbott was screaming for satire. Look, you just heard bang, bang, bang from next door. Did they fall down the stairs? Maybe. I say you like it's true. I don't watch enough Friendly Jordies to know exactly what he's doing. Yeah, obviously in my feed I tend to see the videos, and I watch some of them, but I'm not completely down with everything he's doing. Anyway, hey, look, it's bedtime. It's bedtime. I just got the news today. My contract is officially extended, so yay! I'm not unemployed at the end of the week. I keep getting paid for at least 3 more months. Yay. I saw you post that on social media, Annette. You heard 2 different men telling women the coronavirus is a con. Fucking scares the shit out of me, people saying that. Anyway, I'm going to go to bed. We can talk about coronavirus being a con another time. So I hope you find people look after yourselves. Because looking forward to hanging out with you again tomorrow night, almost definitely. What's tomorrow, Wednesday? Yeah, probably. We'll see. Anything could happen, but we'll say probably. So look after yourself, one and all. You're all fine people. I hope you stay well. I'm going to go to bed. I suggest you do as well. And failing that, I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.